I'm Dr. Holliday with ND Direct Docs, and I've had a lot of patients ask me how they can eat healthier while they're at work. So whether you're back at the office or you're working from your house, I've come up with 5 different recipes that you can make mixing and mashing from 10 different ingredients, and we're going to do another recipe today. So our 10 ingredients are canned tuna, canned coconut milk, canned crushed tomatoes, shredded cheese, frozen broccoli, frozen cubed chicken that has already been cooked, frozen butternut squash noodles, a mixture of frozen onions and bell pepper, and then frozen edamame. And then I have a cilantro lime ranch dressing that I have been using to flavor up different things. So the thing that we're gonna make today is tuna broccoli casserole. So let's get started. So I am gonna cook it out of a Tupperware dish, because that's what you would have when you're at your office. And the ingredients that we're gonna use are, of course, broccoli, of course, tuna, coconut milk, and then the shredded cheese. So pretty easy, pretty simple. First things first, because the broccoli is frozen, gonna put it in our Tupperware dish. Put a lid on it, and then I'm gonna do it for 2 minutes. Whenever I'm cooking anything in the microwave, I've just learned from experience that I do it for about 2 minutes. Obviously, unless of course you're cooking from a bag and it tells you cook for this many minutes. But I usually just do 2 minutes and then kind of check it so that way you don't overcook or have anything explode, because it's much simpler just to then do it by 30 second or 1 minute intervals. So while we're waiting on that, I'm gonna go ahead and open up our canned food. I'm putting tuna in this today, but obviously you could use the frozen chicken if you wanted. I'm just doing the tuna for variety because we used the chicken already in multiple other recipes. They do make canned chicken. So if you liked the shreddedness of the tuna, but you're not like a fan of fish, that's another thing that you could do. So I'm just gonna drain it. And then we're still waiting on our broccoli. So I'll go ahead and I'll open up the canned coconut milk. The reason that I went with coconut milk for this recipe is that coconut milk is a little bit thicker than cow's milk, which is kind of a nice creamy texture. And then also coconut milk keeps for a lot longer than cow milk does. So that's something that you could keep around if you don't know that you're gonna all of a sudden need to cook a very quick meal. It's kind of nice to have emergency foods around basically as your backup. Coconut milk, just like cow milk, comes with different amounts of fat in it. So there is light coconut milk and more fatty coconut milk. So just depending on what your diet is and what your diet goals are, I would read the label when you're buying it, just to know. Obviously the full fat coconut milk is a little bit creamier, and the light coconut milk is just a little bit lower in calories. So if that's something that you're looking at, that would be something to know. So 2 minutes, and then we're gonna check it, and it's pretty cooked. So because I'm using the same container, because you would only have one container if you were at work, we'll go ahead and we'll dump out our broccoli, and then I'm just gonna pour like half of the can in this. Perfect. Actually, that was like a third. I'm gonna save that for later for another recipe in another video. And so I'm just gonna do it for a minute. If you are somebody who makes sauces on the stove when you're not working and you have more time and more equipment, then you know that typically you would use something to kind of thicken it up, like flour or cornstarch, or if you're really healthy and fancy, arrowroot. Obviously, you're not gonna keep stuff like that at your office. So our sauce, our cheese sauce that we're making today is just gonna have the cheddar cheese in it. So I'm warming this up for about a minute, and then I'm gonna stir in some cheddar cheese and then warm it up again. Then we'll have our meal and we'll be all ready to go. I chose broccoli to put in this because I like broccoli as a vegetable, because it's pretty versatile, mixes well with a lot of different things, and then also is pretty filling. So you want to make sure that when you eat healthy, that you're eating enough to make you feel full, because the thing that you don't want is to skimp out on either food that you don't think is very good tasting or doesn't make you feel full, because then an hour later you're going to go searching for the chips or other things. Okay, so we've done this for about a minute. We are going to use a fork because that's something that we would have at our office. And then I am gonna think that I'm gonna do like 3 pinches of cheddar cheese, but we'll have to stir it and then we'll have to see how cheesy it is and then go from there. There's pinch number 3. So let's stir and let's see if it's the right thickness for us. It's melting quite nicely, but it's still thinner than I would want it. So I'm gonna do another 2 pinches. You could also put the peppers and onions in this dish if you're somebody who's like really big on flavor. I personally didn't want to because I wouldn't like how the bell pepper would be with the broccoli in this particular dish. I am a huge fan of onion, so if it was just onion, I might have done that. But I think the cheesiness is a nice flavor for me, so that's all that I would really need. This is like a little bit reminiscent of like, you know, the tuna helper that you would have as a kid, but instead of the noodles, you have the broccoli. So we're stirring it up, and it's nice and melty, which I'm really liking. So I actually am going to put the broccoli back in this and then put the tuna in it and then do it for, look at how nice and cheesy that is. And then do it for about another minute and then we'll be ready to eat and then ready to get back to work, because sometimes when you have a deadline, you don't really have time to think about what you're going to eat. You just kind of put food in your body and then get going. So it's kind of nice if you can have food that both you like and like makes you feel good after, because you don't want to have that hour later crash that happens sometimes when you eat food that isn't quite as healthy for you. So let's stir this guy up. Yep, and I can already tell that it's starting to thicken and be kind of a nice consistency that I want. So let's do another 30 seconds and then we'll be ready to eat. Also, I've included meat in all of these dishes that I've made. Clearly, instead of picking chicken or tuna, you could replace a lot of them just with different types of beans, like kidney beans or black beans or garbanzo beans. Just some sort of a protein to help you, again, feel full and just have different macros that you're getting in your body. I just chose to do meat because a lot of my patients who've been requesting health information do eat meat. So, all right. Well, let's get her plated. Get her plated. Feel very fancy when you're eating off of your paper plates at work. So, a little bit thinner than I might like it, but it definitely will make me feel full, nice and cheesy, and the broccoli also will make me feel nice and healthy. So there we go, tuna broccoli casserole.